The mistress of LaLaurie Mansion was a sadistic woman who liked to inflict tremendous amounts of pain on her slaves, which resulted in them trying to take their own lives to get away from her.
And with that, I'm Cassie.
I'm Sara, and let's talk about the Mistress of LaLaurie Mansion. The LaLaurie Mansion story begins in 1831. Then a man named Edward Dufausset sold his unfinished home at 1140 Royal Street to a well-off, pleasant-seeming couple, Dr. Leonard LaLaurie and his wife Delphine. Situated on the corner of Royal and Hospital Streets in the French Quarter, it seemed like a handsome addition to the neighborhood. But life inside LaLaurie Mansion was nothing short of hellish. Rumors began to swirl about Delphine LaLaurie's poor treatment of her slaves, as many reported them to look haggard and wretched. However, when in public, Delphine LaLaurie was generally polite to black people and solicitous of her slaves' health.
So I think we need to talk about the wife, Delphine LaLaurie. She is interesting because if we just read that out in public, she acts all nice.
And she cares for her slaves.
Yeah, but then at home,
behind closed doors, she's like
a crazy person. We'll get into it, you guys will see, but it gets pretty crazy. So I think it's interesting that she puts on this facade when she goes out.
She's two-sided.
Yeah, which I don't want to say is common for this because obviously I didn't live in 1831, so I don't know. But I wonder if that was a common thing, out in public to the men and the ladies that she's friends with. She wants to seem like this kind, caring woman.
She's like, you didn't make me look good enough.
Yeah, like that. You know what I mean? You see it in movies and stuff. So I wonder if that was kind of a common thing then.
But the rumors continued, and finally the reports were sufficiently widespread that a local lawyer was dispatched to Royal Street in 1832 to remind LaLaurie of the laws for the upkeep of slaves. However, during his visit, the lawyer found no evidence of wrongdoing or mistreatment by LaLaurie. Madame LaLaurie paid for legal services and sold a number of enslaved people following the investigation. As word spread, other socialites were no longer eager to participate in their social events or interact with the LaLaurie family. There, Delphine had started to abuse and torture her enslaved workers. Though she was kind to her slaves in public, she had even freed 2 of them. She made life in the mansion a living nightmare. 2 people she enslaved even jumped to their death from the mansion's roof rather than face her brutality. One of these slaves was apparently a 10-year-old girl named Leah and fell to her death from the roof of Royal Street Mansion while trying to avoid punishment from a whip-wielding LaLaurie. Leah was buried on the mansion grounds, but the extent of Delphine LaLaurie's cruelty remained just a rumor until April 1834. We read some more, but let's talk about how these slaves felt towards Mistress LaLaurie.
I can imagine they were angry because she would obviously act one way in public, and they obviously weren't getting treated that way all the time.
Yeah.
And then back at home, they were punished and tortured, essentially. We'll get more into that again. But
I think they were angry and scared because, like I said, 2 slaves jumped off the roof to
just avoid her.
Yeah.
Which I think they probably felt pretty hopeless then. Because obviously enslavement is awful and completely cruel. But to be I cannot stand another second of being in her presence or being around her. I would rather
jump to my death than deal with her.
Yeah.
I
can't even imagine.
I don't even if I was feeling hopeless and terrified and stuff, I don't think I would have the balls to jump off. I'm thinking about it. I'm really trying to put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And
but maybe after years
of
you know
torture.
What I mean? And again, we don't want to give too much away about what's coming next in the story, but the stuff that she did was awful and extremely painful, and to go through this stuff daily, you know what I mean? I don't know how long slaves were kept for, especially in this time and with her in general, so it could have been 10, 20 years that this stuff was happening to you know what I mean? Every single day, and just being so depressed and hopeless.
Jumping off a building to your death is a really big leap.
I mean,
But I can't.
I feel this is getting really dark.
Yeah.
But generally for women, they choose the less gory way, I guess, so like more like overdosing on things and stuff. Instead of like jumping. I mean, these might have been women. I'm not sure. They might have just jumped off the building because they probably didn't have access to this other stuff. But I think we can't really. It's hard to put ourselves in that situation because
we haven't experienced
it, and we never will experience it.
No other option.
This is what I have
to
do.
Yeah. Then a sudden fire in the house broke out and revealed the depths of her depravity. When volunteers first arrived on the scene, they encountered a slave chained to the stove. She told them that she started the fire on purpose in hopes of ending her own life. Things only got worse as they moved through the mansion. In the attic above the kitchen, the first responders found a group of imprisoned slaves. Many had been gruesomely tortured with their bones broken, their eyes gouged out, and worse. Upon entering one of the apartments, the most appalling spectacle met their eyes. The New Orleans Bee reported on April 11th, 1834, the day after the fire. 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. They have been confined by her for several months, and have been merely kept in existence to prolong their suffering. Others said that the slaves were malnourished, showed signs of being flayed with a whip, were bound in restrictive postures, and worn spiked iron collars. Rumors also abounded that dead bodies were found in the attic with their corpses mutilated beyond recognition. When a bystander questioned LaLaurie's husband about the slaves, he was told in an insolent manner that some people had better stay at home rather than come to others' houses to dictate laws and meddle with other people's business. Delphine LaLaurie fled, but the story of LaLaurie Mansion was just beginning.
So we talked a little bit earlier about how Mistress LaLaurie was awful to the slaves, but now we kind of go a little more in depth about what she had done. So there was a slave chained to the stove who then started the fire on purpose to take her own life. She was like, I'm chained to a stove, I can't do anything, and this is like awful. Yeah, I can't even imagine chaining her to the stove for what reason?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I wanna say something though. I didn't add it in, but so, Mistress LaLaurie and her husband, they had kids. They had 2 little girls, and apparently they liked to feed the slaves, and I think this one in particular, and she found out, and she would literally beat her children.
I'm not surprised.
And I guess that's the reason why they because I guess her children were quiet, and I guess that's why.
Yeah,
and I was
that makes sense.
Snap. And also, when the first responders found that the cook's slaves would go up to that room, and they never came back.
Could you imagine? You're essentially living in this horror house. Mm-hmm. Literally, people would disappear, and you would never see them again. And then on top of that, all of you are getting tortured all the time.
All the time.
People were wearing iron collars with spikes on them. Their limbs were being stretched.
They were getting whipped. Their bones broken. Eyes gouged.
Honestly, you would live in terror all of the time. You know what I mean? Am I next to go up to this room and disappear? I can't imagine being those responders that come into the building and they're like, what is going on?
What happened to you?
Literally, all of these slaves there, because it wasn't just 1 or 2.
It was multiple. If I was one of the first responders, I would probably have to step out and probably vomit somewhere.
But yeah, because I can't imagine it would be a clean.
I bet the smell was horrendous.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the fire had to at least.
Yeah, well, there's a whole attic of dead bodies.
Yeah,
so that's not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Oh gosh, I just got chills.
No.
Following the fire at LaLaurie Mansion, the house embarked on an uneasy, erratic journey. After lingering in ruins, it was made into an integrated school, a conservatory of music, and a home for the homeless. At one point, it was partitioned into apartments. Eventually, it fell into private hands, but no one ever seemed to own the house for long. One owner apparently ended up in an asylum. Another fell into a coma. And even actor Nicolas Cage, who briefly owned the house, lost it to foreclosure in 2009. I bought it in 2007, figuring it would be a good place in which to write the great American horror novel, Cage later said. I didn't get too far with the novel. According to local lore, there is a reason that no one owned the house for very long. Although Delphine LaLaurie was long dead, it is said that her horrific crimes made LaLaurie Mansion a deeply haunted house.
Like we said, one owner ended up in an asylum, the other was in a coma. Nicolas Cage lost it to foreclosure. I wonder if it was coincidence, like pure coincidence that these things happened, or if you believe in haunted stuff and the power that brings, if those spirits or whatever brought that upon these owners.
Something had to happen for one owner to go into an asylum,
Yeah.
and one owner to go into a coma.
Yeah, so I wonder if they saw some things.
I think so.
Like spirits or haunted things, you know what I mean? Maybe the one that went to an asylum thought he was crazy.
Maybe he was hearing voices, and that's what.
I don't know.
So maybe something minor happened in the house, and that kind of just amplified these owners' feelings and maybe beliefs,
freaked them out,
it kind of freaked them. Yeah, like you said, freaked them out.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, but again, it could just be pure coincidence.
A noise at the wrong time or something.
Yeah.
As the LaLaurie Mansion changed hands over the years, many who ventured inside have had strange paranormal encounters. People have reported hearing tortured shrieks and moans coming from within. Some have smelled burning flesh or heard the dragging of chains. Others say they've seen actual ghosts, including a large man in chains and a woman with glaring eyes. Apparently, some of these ghosts, especially the woman believed to be Madame LaLaurie herself, are violent. When the house was a school, young girls allegedly encountered a woman who would grab their arms, leaving scratches and bruises. Other ghosts seemed more friendly and even playful. One medium who visited the house suggested that much of its evil had dissipated, leaving its ghosts to wander freely and without fear of their former mistress. Today, the house at 1140 Royal Street looks as charming as ever, but locals are well aware of its bloody history.
Earlier, we kind of talked a little bit about essentially conjuring things up. So obviously all these people who have gone to the house have seen and heard a lot. A lot has gone down in this house after the whole incident with Madame LaLaurie. An interesting question would be, do you think that it's possible for people to conjure up these spirits by putting these thoughts and these stories and stuff into the atmosphere? Can you create that thing? Because I know a lot of people think that that's a possibility.
Oh, like earlier I said, I think your body can kind of what you're feeling can give off this energy.
Yeah.
So I guess it is possible. I feel like it's already there, to some extent, but I feel like when you have what's that? Is it conduit or a energy? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're a conduit.
Yeah. Or something if you add something that can amplify that, then I feel like anything is really possible.
Yeah. So you think it's more of a, not necessarily a spirit. It's more of how you're feeling about things. You think that you heard a noise, opposed to there actually being a noise that was created by years worth of energy and fear and stuff put into
I feel like there's something already in the house,
spirit-wise?
Something I feel like something is already in the house.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on how much you believe.
So certain people are more open to things than others. So people who, tend to have a stronger religious faith tend to be, they can close themselves off from that because, I don't want to say they've learned how, but kind of, especially growing up, you're taught all the stuff that's out there. Opposed to other people who might be more open to communicating with something or talking with something.
Like, say if me and you went ghost hunting somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like we would get a lot.
Yeah. But like for me, I would know how to like close it off. Like if I didn't want to like be open to something, like I would know how to be like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me, no.
I feel like you're more
Curious.
like kind of curious maybe because you didn't like grow up like I did.
No.
You know? So I don't know. I mean, it could be the other way around.
Like, for some people, if you don't know, she like grew up in a church.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows all this. Me, my mom tried to get me to go to church. And I didn't go.
So there's two different sides here, you know what I mean? So like, but again, that could change things too because I'm very aware of what's out there. That could make me more open.
Yeah.
Essentially, you know, whereas if you are like, I don't know what's out there, it could be kind of like closing you off.
So
you know what I mean?
it's like it can go one way or the other. So
I think it's interesting.
if you want to learn about someone else who tortured their victims, make sure you check out last week's video about David Parker Ray right here.
We will see you guys next week. Peace.